Okay. This is your week 3 recap. And yes, I'm drinking this week. I'm drinking for several reasons. First and foremost, the main reason why I'm drinking is it makes your mothers all that much more attractive. You guys know that. You've seen your mothers, you've seen your own faces. But there are several reasons as to why I'm drinking. More important reasons why I'm drinking. The first one is just out of the sense of wonder. You see, I've been pondering something that maybe you guys can help me out with, since so many of you seem to be experts in this field. What exactly is the difference, or what exactly is the difference of approach between a money league and a league like ours? It would seem to me like the objective of either is to win the championship. And if you do happen to play for a money league, winning the money is just a add-on, right? It's a byproduct of the fucking process. You get the money at the end of it, but you were playing to win the championship anyway. There's a lot of talk about effort. There's a lot of talk about trying and not trying. And if any of you have played fantasy baseball, you would know the contrast between fantasy football and fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball is a lot of maintenance. You have to manage your pitching rotation during the course of a week. I mean, it's a chore. It's a lot to do when you consider the fact that players obviously play, 10 days in a row. So your pitching rotations have to continue to move and rotate. So there's a lot of management when it comes to that. And I think for some of you, maybe you haven't experienced that because there's so much talk about effort. There's so much talk about will. But I had a revelation in between my third or fourth shot, and I thought, you know what? There isn't a difference. I basically fucking tricked you guys. I knew the answer to this question. See, because what it really is an excuse. You can't be the one that writes the book and you be the main character in the book. You can't be the author and the main character. In other words, you cannot write the narrative, or you can't write the obstacle, right? The adventure of the character and be the character. They have to be separate. People have to write it for you. You're either the character or you are the author. So when you fucks come out with these excuses, and these excuses work in your advantage, because if you win, oh, I won. And I wasn't even trying because this wasn't my important league. And if you lose, well, of course I lost, guys. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't trying. I didn't really care. And this is a surprise to me because I see so many of you commenting in the fantasy thread many times each week, with the exception of fucking Eric and Hensel and Andy, and maybe Joe comes in here and there. But it seems like you guys are invested. So there is no real difference between a money league and this league. If you're playing to win the championship, what difference does it make? How many times on these recaps do I fucking scold you guys for doing too much? It seems like you guys are very ambitious once it comes to this league. Again, with the exception of maybe two of you. The rest of you pretty much seem to participate, are making a lot of acquisitions, are paying attention and picking up players. So this more important concept that you've made up in your head is another thing that's just goes without saying, is that no one, wait for it, cares. No one cares about your other league. Why does nobody care about my other league? Because it's not against any of us. Ed last year, for example, ranted and said all this stuff, and I'm winning in both my leagues. Who cares? Your value in fantasy isn't based on what you do with your fantasy team. It's what the fuck you do against our team. Let's say you do it in this league. Otherwise, no one gives a shit. No one knows what the capabilities of those other players that you play with. For all we know, those other people in your leagues can just be full with a bunch of Hensels and Joes. No one gives a shit about your other league, or you patting yourself on the back because you may be getting your ass whooped by a player in this league and saying, well, at the end of the day, I really don't care because I need him to kill in the other one. Imagine if you work 2 jobs and you have a good amount of coworkers in either job. Let's say 50 coworkers in each job, right? And every other fucking day, you're saying, well, I'm not good at this job, but in my other job, you ought to see me out there. We don't know what the management is like in the other job. We don't know what that company's like. We have no fucking clue. We have no way to assess your fucking value. It doesn't matter. We can only assess your value within this company. So no one wants to hear about the grass being greener on the other side. It's just an excuse for you motherfuckers to just say, well, I didn't care anyway, so who cares? We weren't playing for money. Or, I did it! Yes, I got it! And I wasn't even trying. Again, you cannot be the author and the subject. You can't write this extravagant story where you made it to the top of this mountain because it's very self-serving. So you guys are forcing me to drink. The second reason why I'm drinking is that a celebration, man. This week marks a week of a milestone. Let's not say a milestone. I can't exactly make sure of that. Maybe he can tell me if this is right or wrong. But Andy traded this week. And I, of course, predicted that Andy would trade at least twice this year. I still think there's one more to come. Andy traded, and of course this is a big deal because Andy has this no trade clause where he, for whatever reason, doesn't want to trade again. Either he wants to be cute or this is something he truly believes in. He traded, let me just pull this up for a second here. The trade was Isaiah Kroll to Orlando in exchange for Doug Baldwin. Andy, of course, is in need of running backs, and Orlando is in desperate need of wide receivers. Seems like a pretty good trade. Obviously, they weren't able to get these players in before the trades were accepted. So the players will take into effect on their teams next week. What's really interesting about this, and what just simply makes my teeth whiter, is not only the fact that Andy traded, but it's because Andy traded because he was 0-2. That's what I love. I like the fact that Andy can no longer ignore the fact that his team isn't doing good and he refuses to trade. Something that he's done, many, many, many times in fantasy. Andy has been well known, as I always say, to be on that sinking ship and to just say, well, hey, this is just how it's going to go down. But it was a reactionary trade, not just a trade for the sake of trading. And I commend Andy on that. And I celebrate the fact that Andy made that trade because Bundy knows what the fuck he's talking about. And why? Because he pays attention to the goddamn papers. I, of course, made a trade with Paul. I traded Tevin Coleman and Jordan Matthews over to Paul in exchange for Frank Gore and Spencer Ware. There's a feeling that I got when I made this trade, and I haven't made a trade in a while. I don't think I made a trade last year. One of you guys remind me if I made a trade with you last year. I'm not sure. But there's a feeling that I got when I traded Tevin Coleman. I had no problem shipping Jordan Matthews because wide receiver is one of the positions where I'm doing pretty well in. But letting go of Tevin Coleman, based on what he did last week, of course, where he scored 24 points, I think that is a very bloated performance. I don't think that that's something that's going to continue to happen. But it hurt me because he was valuable, and he has value because he had a strong season last year. So when I got that feeling, I was reassured because that only meant that I gave Paul a good deal. Paul and I exchanged messages, and Paul told me that he was a bit apprehensive about giving up Spencer Ware. And that's probably because Paul knew that he was giving me a good deal as well. You got to give value to get value. You hear that, Pedro? When you fucking throw these dumb deals at people, you understand that? Pedro drives me to drink sometimes. I'm sorry, guys. So I made that trade mainly because my because my running back situation was very poor in the past 2 weeks. All right, not counting this week. Week 1 and week 2, I had combined production from Thomas Rawls, and from Langford. I had 23 points in 2 weeks by those guys. Now, this is making adjustments. Picking up Frank Gore is going to give me consistency. He's going to get the ball in his hands, not a whole ton, but he will have the opportunity to get in the end zone. And I am banking on Jamal Charles getting hurt once again and really using Ware towards the back end of the season, even if that's for 2 to 3 weeks. He'll be valuable to me, way more valuable than Jordan Matthews could ever be, because again, my wide receiver core is just that damn good. The final reason why I'm drinking is, of course, the fact that I am 0-3. I'm crying inside, guys. Yes, I am 0-3. I've never been 0-3 before. I will say that. The worst that I've started the season is 0-2, like I've told you guys, and I told you what happened there. 3 games is approximately what I lost last regular season, as I ended 10-3, so this only means I'm going to fucking just have to fucking win 10 straight games. What you guys seem to forget, and the reason why I don't panic, and I never do because I don't put that much weight into the regular season, is because you don't necessarily need a great record to get into the playoffs. So even if I had a record of, if I had 5 or 6 wins and I have enough points, which, by the way, I have 277 points, which is 5th in the league. How do I have no wins, but I have the 5th most points in the league? Well, I also just so happen to give up the most points, period, with 317. Orlando is a close second with 306 points, and Pedro has 297, which is very impressive. That means Pedro's having a very strong season because he's up there on points allowed, but he scored 305 points. So he's had some tough matchups. So I am 0-3, but I am not rattled. I am not worried because I'm not you guys. I am making the necessary changes in order to strengthen my team, and the running back position is where I am lacking the most. Let me just take a... Now, as far as those week 3 results, I, of course, lost to Andy 101-82. Hensel, surprisingly, defeated Hell's Kitchen 76-67. Ed just got by the hair of his chinny chin chin against Eric 96-95. Turtle Power defeats Joe 84-71, and Pedro beats Paul 113-109. Pedro is the top scoring team of the week, and the lowest scoring team with a whopping 67 points is J-Ray. J-Ray just seppuku, land on the sword. You've disgraced yourself, your fantasy team, and more importantly, Hunter. So moving on to, before I move on, before I move on, I have to say that the whole, Ed and this thing that is also happening here that I don't appreciate. As a shit talker of this league, I've told you guys this before. As a shit talker of this league, I do not appreciate when people half-ass talking shit. I feel that if you talk shit, you should approach shit talking the same way that somebody, for example, like Conor McGregor would, right? Conor McGregor talks shit right before he fights Nate Diaz the first time, gets fucking choked out. What does he do? He faces Nate Diaz again, and he talks shit right before that fight. And what do you have? Surprise, motherfuckers, the king is back. That's how you got to approach this stuff. You guys are holding on way too much to the result when you talk shit. And you can't talk shit like that. It's just no fun. I think I remember an exchange on the chat when, I said Ed doesn't fucking say anything. He's fucking spineless like Pedro until he knows he's winning. And then Ed comes in and says, I got to make sure. That's not shit talking. That's not shit talking. It's like you're stating facts at that point. That's no fun. The shit talking is all about the speculation. It hasn't happened yet. And we are sticking out our chests and saying that I don't give a fuck. You can't fuck with me. That's not shit talking. That's just like, well, final score. I beat you. Hey, I knew I would win. It's lame. It's like an after school special. Stop it. Okay, so moving on to the week 4 games, we have Eric going up against me, and I'm very excited about that because Aaron Rodgers is on a bye. We've got Jay against Turtle Power. We've got Hensel going up against Pedro. Mr. Giblets going up against Playoffs. And Andy going up against Taint Sweat. And, of course, I will not predict these games. It is a waste of time. I'm going to take one more shot before we sign off here. This was your week 3 recap. As always, may your quarterbacks get hurt before they get out of the locker room. May your running backs pull their calf muscles. And may your wide receivers not only get arrested for marijuana possession, but get arrested for domestic abuse. Go fuck yourselves.